Hey there, kids. Mr. Ta here, and I'm about to teach you realistic fiction lesson number 14. One of my favorite lessons, complicated characters, because boy, do I like complicated characters if you haven't already figured it out from listening to the read alouds. So, today's objective, we are learning to realize that characters are complicated in maybe one way in one setting and another way in another situation. So, as you guys read more complicated books, more advanced books, you'll notice that the characters are not just what we call one dimensional. There isn't just the good guy and the bad guy, and the good guy always is right and the bad guy is always wrong. You'll start to see that characters are a little bit more complicated. There's more to them than just that. Here's a couple of my favorite examples. Here's If you don't know the Star Wars series, here's a guy named Darth Vader. He looks fairly menacing, doesn't he? And he is definitely a bad guy. But if you really watch the series and you really follow it, you realize that there's a lot to him. He's more like a fallen hero, and there's some sadness and tragedy to him. So he's a really amazing character to watch. Also, another one of my favorite characters is this guy, Professor Snape from the Harry Potter series. And again, he's someone that generally you wouldn't think of as being a good person. He's kind of bad. I don't want to spoil it for you, but again, there's a lot more to him than that meets the eye. He's got some really good qualities, and in many ways, he might even be considered the hero of the series, or at least one of them. Um, and here is Mrs. Incredible, otherwise known as Elastigirl or Helen Parr. And Helen Parr is a superhero, and she is brave and tough and amazing, but she is also a mom and a wife, and so she raises a family together. So she also acts differently depending on whether or not she's out fighting crime or with her family. Characters can also be complicated in other ways, not just in different situations. They may be one way with one relationship, with one type of person, and then when they are with other people, they act differently. They can be different in different settings, just sort of like how they might act one way when they're at work and one way when they're at home. Or they can be even different on the outside and on the inside. A good example of that would be the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, who looks really menacing and mean on the outside, but then when you get to know him, you realize that he's really gentle and kind. So, as readers, we look for evidence to show how complex they are. We look for those changes. So, that's the fun part about reading more complex characters. Why do authors write about complex characters? Well, because they are more like real life, and that's what authors always want to teach us. They always want to teach us about real life. And in real life, people are also really complicated. They're not just one way, and you know that. Think about it. How are you different in different situations with different people? Think about the way that you act with your parents, and then the way you act with your friends or with your teachers. Think about the way that you act in school versus the way you act when you're out on the playground, or let's say playing Fortnite against a bunch of people online. The way you talk to them versus the way you talk to, well, let's say your parents. These things are probably different because you obviously have different relationships with those people, and you can express yourself differently with those people. So, a great exercise we're going to try today is something that you can do in your read aloud notebook. If you don't have a read aloud notebook, my kids have a read aloud notebook. You can use a piece of paper for this, and you can draw a T chart with two columns. We're going to take our friend Sistine from The Tiger Rising because we know her so well. And I've just made this T chart where we can talk about the way that she acts with people that are not her friends, what I call them the non-friends. And then we will also look for her different side, because the non-friend side is the side that we first get to meet when Sistine first walks on that bus. So we'll take a few examples. So we look for evidence, and we're going to look for these examples, like when she tore into those bullies on the playground when they threw the apple at her, and then she just walked right into the crowd and started throwing fists. And then when she got on the bus and Norton and Billy Threemonger told her that, this wasn't a party bus and that she was wearing party clothes. And she just said it's not her fault that they don't have nice clothes. Or the time when she was told to introduce herself in front of the class and she said that she hates the South and she thinks that all Southerners are ignorant. Well, when you think about that, then you can kind of think that that impression of her would make you feel that she's really tough and really aggressive, and she's sharp tongued. She knows like the right insult to say, like it's not my fault you don't have nice clothes. She can also be a little disrespectful, the way that she talks to the people in her class that she doesn't even know. They might even be nice people, and she immediately says that they're all ignorant. So this is, if we were only to meet her this way, we would think she was these things. But we can also look for her for things that she does when she acts differently. So let's take a look at a place where she acts differently. For example, this area, when she visits Rob at the Kentucky Star. I'll read it to you. "We got to walk through the woods," Rob said. He looked doubtfully at Sistine's bright dress and shiny black shoes. "You can give me some of your clothes to wear," she told him. "I hate this dress anyway." And so he took her to the motel room, and there Sistine stood and stared at the unmade beds and the tattered recliner. Her eyes moved over his father's gun case and then went to the macaroni pan from the night before, still sitting on the hot plate. She looked at it all the same way she had looked at the Kentucky Star sign and the motel and him, like she was trying to add it up in her head. Then she saw his carvings, the little wooden village of odd things that he had made. He had them all on a TV dinner tray beside his bed. "Oh," she said. Her voice sounded different, lighter. "Where did you get those?" She went and bent over the tray and studied the carvings, the blue jay and the pine tree and the Kentucky Star sign, and the one he was particularly proud of, his father's right foot, life-size and accurate right down to the little toe. She picked them up one by one and placed them back down carefully. "Where did you get them?" she asked again. "I made them," said Rob. She did not doubt him, as some people would. Instead, she said, "Michelangelo, the man who painted the Sistine Chapel, he sculpted too." "You're a sculptor," she said. "You're an artist." Think about the way that she acts compared to what we know about her before. When she sees those wood carvings, and or think about the time that she meets the tiger for the first time, or when she meets Willie May, you'll start to notice that she appreciates beauty and that she gives compliments. Like she will tell Rob that he is an artist and that she's gentle. The way that she holds those carvings and puts them down really carefully. She's respectful of those things, and she's smart. She knows about the Sistine Chapel and Michelangelo and all that. So those are all these other new qualities that we didn't think of before because we didn't have them. But now that we see her in a different situation, we realize that she is way more than just being tough, aggressive, sharp-tongued, and disrespectful. So this lesson, we've discovered that characters are complicated depending on the context that they're in, or who they are with, or sometimes even their outside compared to their inside, that they are different. And that's what we want you to look for in your reading. So think about a character from your independent book and ask, what's my main idea about the character? What do I know about this character and why? But then ask yourself, if this character is complicated, is my character different in different situations, or different with different characters, or in different places, or do they seem different on the inside than what they appear on the outside? Here's a couple of different things that you might be able to state in your reading response journal. For example, my character often does this, for example, during this time, and this makes me think these things. And then, of course, you can talk about it. But in other situations, they do things differently. Or I used to think my character was this because the text had said this, but now I'm thinking that because of that. Notice how we are giving evidence of the characters being different in different places. Now, if you don't think that you've got a character in your text that is like that, maybe the book that you have doesn't have a very complicated character. It's possible. And so what you should probably do is try your best. Maybe write about the read aloud instead. And then the next book you read or the book after that, try to look for those complicated characters because I guarantee you it's so satisfying when you discover it about themselves. It makes them feel more real. Okay? Until next time, I'm Mr. Ta.